Hello, it's Ali. Hope you're having a great day. Today I'm going to be filling up a page of my sketchbook with a portrait. This painting had me going back so many times, but I finally left it at a spot I'm happy with, so I can't wait to show you. I'm using the Canon Spiral notebooks. There's a few versions of this notebook that look exactly the same on the outside, but yeah, I think I'm using the 135. I really like this sketchbook. I can use anything on it. I've used pencil, markers, watercolors, and now gouache. So I feel like it's really versatile. I believe I also used the Helllllllo gouache today. It's one of my first times using this brand and also gouache in general, but I've been really loving it. So I'll just share all the things I'm learning. Here's the picture of the reference I'm using. I'm wetting the paper first with a really big brush. I find that wetting only the areas you're working on as you go, the paper tends to get more wrinkly and randomly. So this just gives it an even start. And sorry if it looks weird that I'm clawing the paper. I was just trying to make it stop popping up because of the water. Before the actual gouache, I'm going in with a watercolor underpainting. I'm using Paul Rubens watercolor in the colors 21 Opera Rose and a little bit of 22 Opera Peach. I did another video a few years ago on another Paul Rubens set if you're interested. If I figure out how to put the link somewhere, I'll put it somewhere. Or if not, I'll just put it in the description or something. I always love doing a brighter, almost neon underpainting because I think it just looks really beautiful when those bright colors peek through in your final painting. And it adds a little bit of life. I'm doing this underpainting with watercolor this time as well because I did try it with watered down gouache last time and I didn't like it too much. One, it was too streaky because water and gouache gets very finicky. And two, even if I didn't add too much water to it, then it became too opaque, so it covered up my sketch underneath and it just made painting so much harder. So this time I'm trying the underpainting with watercolor so I can get more pigment but still see the sketch underneath. Hopefully it works. Spoiler, it doesn't. Well, it kind of did and it kind of didn't because I think I just did a very light wash of this color. I didn't want it to be too intense, but turned out I was a little too subtle with it, so it didn't pop as much as I wanted to in the end. I'll just remember to add more pigment in the next painting. I'm gonna start off by painting the background first. I always try to remember to do that because color can look really different by what's around it. There's even this color theory study done by UCLA, which is a university in California, to prove how colors can look depending on the background. I'll try to look up what I'm talking about and pop up some examples if I find it. Basically, they did multiple experiments of the same color, but wrapped it around with a different color. But when you color pick the middle colors, it's exactly the same on both sides. It's crazy how drastic colors can look depending on what's around it. It's also kind of like that one dress that went viral a few years ago and people couldn't tell if it was black and blue or white and gold. Although that had a bit more to do with lighting and contrast. It's just an example of optical illusions that can happen because of the environment colors. So I just try to put in the background color first so that every color after that feels like it all fits in. Here I'm going in with some lighter tones on the face. I'm using a bunch of white and just a hint of yellow and even smaller amount of red here. The reds are super pigmented, so I literally tried to get the smallest dot of pigment to mix. I used to paint from dark to light because I saw a gouache artist on YouTube do it, so naturally I tried it. But I'm still getting used to mixing gouache and I find that it's pretty hard to start with darks. I noticed that with gouache, it's so easy to get to a dark tone so fast. So I end up using a lot of white. So this time, I'm just gonna see how starting with lighter colors go. Future Ali here. In the paintings after this one, I did go back to starting with darks. I know I just said the complete opposite like 2 seconds ago, but I'm gonna change my mind again. I think starting with darks is actually pretty helpful in that it helps me gauge what's the max darkest I could go. And also, it helped me create contrast faster. I think when I was starting with lighter colors, especially in this painting, I noticed I was more timid trying to push into the dark tones. So yeah, that's my final opinion, for now. So something I wanted to talk about in this video was trying to draw more than just pretty girls. And just a disclaimer, I don't think this person I'm drawing is not pretty or anything. I actually think this is a beautiful portrait and very soulful, which is why I chose to draw it. Also, I'm not telling you what to do. You do what you want. But I guess what I mean by stop drawing pretty girls is more so to stop just drawing pretty girls. I totally get it. It's super fun to draw baddies all day. But at some point, I stopped learning as much as I could. When I was on social media all the time back in like 2020, I would consistently just be drawing pretty girls and basically the same types of face all the time. You know, like the Pinterest girlies. And I don't know why I actually did that. I think it probably was just the accessibility. Like these were the popular pictures on Pinterest. So whenever I opened up that page, I would literally just quickly pick out the pics I liked. And most of them turned out to be very similar in terms of poses, facial structure, and overall vibe of the whole image. Which is good if you're trying to perfect that one thing. But I think when you push yourself a little where it might be uncomfortable trying something new, you actually just end up learning more, which is mainly my goal for drawing in my sketchbooks. So now I've been collecting more images to add to my visual library. I don't think people really talk about that enough and how important references are. Now when I choose what I want to draw or paint, I try to have a strong idea of at least one aspect of what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for a sunny type of reference, or if I'm looking for a specific angle of the face, or just whatever. Obviously, I don't want to waste like 5 hours looking for the perfect reference, so I just pick one that has that one main thing I'm looking for in my head, and then just get straight to drawing. After all, this is just practice. Right now, I'm adding some green to the shadows of the face. Later, you'll see that she's wearing a neon green scarf. So what's actually happening is that some of that green from her scarf is going to bounce back up into her face. This green was really hard to make in my opinion. For most of my paintings, I mainly just use blue, red, yellow, white, and maybe sometimes black. I was mixing blue and yellow to get that green tone. A little bit of red just give it some skin color. My problem here was that I needed that green to go darker. The blue and yellow, when I mixed them together, it was still way too saturated than I wanted. But when I added white to it, I found that it desaturated like I wanted, but it kept making the color lighter. So it took a lot of push and pull to try to get this color to match that value. I'm also adding some to the top of the head, even though there isn't any green bouncing off there. But I'm using this as an underpainting for later. When I add her dark black hair later, some of these greens will peek through. And that's just a technique I like using even in my digital painting. I like putting some of the same colors in different areas of the painting so that the whole painting seems a bit more cohesive. I'm also adding another shade of green that's a bit more orangey to blend out her actual orange skin with this green that I'm adding. That's just to help the colors transition from one to the other. After looking at the reference photo again, I decided to go in with a darker brown overall for her shadows. This is what I was talking about earlier, about starting light to dark or dark to light. In this painting, I was starting from light tones to dark tones. So I thought I had been putting in enough dark colors, but after pulling back, I realized I wanted to push the contrast even more. But to get this dark brown, I mainly used maybe 70% red, 20% yellow, maybe 10% blue. I might have added black just to get that darkness. Right now, looking at it, I know it looks dark, but I just needed to put down the darkest color I thought it was going to be, even if it might have ruined the painting. I figured if I didn't like the color after I darkened it, I would just trust myself to fix it later. And after adding the darker brown, I didn't like how that made the painting more dull and lifeless. So I went back in with a more saturated orange that was almost the same value as that brown. I mainly tried to put this very saturated orange in areas like the cheek, nose, ears, and a few other spots here and there. I wanted to focus that color in those areas because those are the areas that tend to have more blood around the face. So when light goes through those areas, you get these bright bursts of saturation. And this effect is called subsurface. To get the more saturated orange, I tried at first to add a bit more yellow and red to that dark brown I had already, but I found it too muddy and I wanted a more pure saturation. So I ended up starting over with the mixing, and this time I put even less blue than I did before and just mainly red and yellow. I definitely put more yellow in this one for the saturation. I've been coming out of an art block, so I've been doing a lot of portraits and photo studies. I just feel like I don't want to think of concepts lately. Like, doing bigger paintings will have me thinking, oh, it needs to be perfect, or it needs to make people feel, or have this epiphany. Then the other side of me is just kind of like, no, what you need to do is relax. I think these are just more low-key and less pressure for me. I'm literally just trying to copy what my eyes are seeing. I'm not actively having to make creative decisions at every turn, and it helps me focus on just one thing at a time. When I'm sketching, it's just to draw the proportions correctly. And when I'm coloring, I'm just focusing on the tones, so it's all about just practicing my skills and getting better at that. And I also don't have to be so precious with every piece. This is just a random page of my sketchbook, and if it doesn't turn out good, well, that's fine. I feel that these studies are still super important in my art journey because it teaches me different lighting or whatever objects or people I'm drawing. Okay, so plot twist. I didn't finish this painting. Well, finished as in it's done and I'm not going back to it. But I do remember I wanted to add so much more to it. I did this painting like a month ago, and yes, it took that long for me to get myself to edit it. I told myself I would go back to it, finish it later, but it is later and I want to draw and paint other things. The page is filled, and that is what I promised. I actually do love how the skin and the colors came out on this painting. I think the little pops of neon reds give a good subsurface effect, and I think I was able to capture the eyes and the spirit of the portrait. So all in all, I'm happy with this page. Thank you guys for coming along and painting with me. I hope you had fun. Feel free to check out the other videos for similar vibes and let me know if there's anything you'd want to see from me in the future. Please like and comment if you'd like to support. Okay, bye!